I know it says we're live, but it's still got a loading bar on the other monitor.
Yeah, it hasn't popped up on mine yet, but
Now it said I need to make my video less private.
again,
Yeah.
OnlyFans.
yeah, take it off the
Yeah.
OnlyFans one.
Oh, that's where I went wrong.
It's like you get a couple of strikes for reporting the news, and all of a sudden everything goes haywire. But they're not actual strikes.
They're not
but they're
strikes. We're
strikes.
just having content removed from YouTube. It's fine.
Yeah, 3 years later.
Yeah, for reading
Discussing
articles.
removing content from YouTube probably is going to get us removed from YouTube.
Allegedly,
It is live on
in
YouTube now, by the
Minecraft.
way.
None of this actually happened.
Perfect. Now it's working, and I've unprivated it, although I didn't change anything. So, hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 416 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast at SHOT Show. We're recording January 29th, 2024.
We need your help to support Canadian Patriot Podcast and visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 an episode. You can show that you're not a communist and buy CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, our homepage, and follow the link on the right.
That takes us to my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? And what have you recently completed on the Patriot Challenge? As is tradition, we'll start with Liz. Liz, what are you drinking?
Tonight I'm drinking some good old White Claw.
Because there's no
Nice.
claw when you're on the law. No, wait, the other
Yes.
thing.
No, that's
I have no idea. I don't know. I've never heard that before. Probably don't want to. Anyways, I'm enjoying some White Claw and things on the Patriot Challenge. Nothing specific. I'm training more and honing some nutrition a little bit more. White Claw excluded, but
yeah. It's like low sugar though, so that's on the
I
nutrition
know.
thing.
It's one of the reasons I'm drinking it, because honestly, they're pretty fucking boring.
Yeah, you get used to them. The raspberry one's not so bad.
Yeah, but none of it's bad. It's just like boring. That's all.
Throw a
So,
shot of vodka in there to kick it up a notch.
yeah.
It's
I mean, I
basically
thought about
bitch
doing
drinks.
tequila shots before I got on here. I was like, yeah, that'll spice it up. But
Yeah,
no.
do it. No.
My coworker was like, tonight when you go home and rant about the government on your podcast and drink, she's like, I won't feel bad if you just call in sick because you were hungover. It's like, I've never done that. Don't plan on starting now, but I
I've come
appreciate
pretty
the
close a few
solidarity.
times back in the early days.
Yeah. Weren't we gonna do like a cocktail evening? I would
should.
like to play bartender.
We should do a cocktail evening.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Ooh, I'm in.
I would like an old fashioned.
I
Okay.
have a bottle of that on my bar.
If we could
That was-
return the entire country to the way it was, at
Okay.
least in my mind.
Okay.
We'll do
That
our
was
best.
on the list for New Year's, but I didn't get to making any of those.
I've discovered old fashions are the perfect drink for ice fishing.
Oh,
You just make up a liter Nalgene bottle of old fashioned before you go out on the ice.
okay.
And then
I mean-
drink it all day.
Yeah, I mean it's basically just whiskey and simple syrup and bitters. So you just shake it all up and take the whole
Yeah.
bottle. It's very convenient.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
if
then
it's
when the
cold,
M&R
you're not
shows
gonna
up-
know.
Yeah, you're not drinking an alcoholic beverage. It's just an algae, or what
Unless
other
it's-
drinking container you use.
What we tell
Yeah.
the fish cops.
Yeah, right.
Just water, bud.
But okay, Pierre, you're up.
Drinking whiskey tonight as usual. Patriot Challenge, drinking the waters. Last weekend, not the weekend that just passed, I took a trip out to New Brunswick. The daughter and some family go see the grandfather turned 100, so got to see some family I haven't seen in a while and all that. Celebrate the day. So had to deal with a bunch of peoples, even though I'm related to them. It wasn't that great, so I had to deal with that. So I say that's practicing a skill.
Did he share any secrets for making it to 100?
He has a prescription. He has a rye and ginger every day
Oh, okay.
in the home. They give him an ounce every
Nice.
day. Yeah. The doctor said, yeah, he's at the age like he could do that. So they got a big bottle of rye at the office and they bring him an ounce every day. He has a rye and ginger.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's his trick. That's what he said. Rye and
There you
ginger every
go.
day.
I'll be right back then. I need to go mix a drink at the bar. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew an old Frenchman that was like, he's old as all get out. And he would have gin and like warm water every day. It was really gross. But it seemed to keep him kicking. So
So warm water is not a bad thing to have closer to the end of the day. It was when I worked delivery at a Chinese food place. They always drank a cup of just warm water, and they said it's pretty much.
I think you're
the same.
supposed to just wash your fingers in that bowl, actually.
No, that was different. It wasn't the bowl. This was a cup. And at the end,
Okay.
like when everything slowed down, they would drink it, and they said it does the exact same thing as what is it, Metamucil and all those things. They said just a cup of water instead of buying stuff. Nice warm cup of water helps your digestive system and all that stuff. Way better than everything you buy at the stores.
fair.
What about you, Ian?
Well, no, I should have actually poured myself a Ryan Ginger in hindsight, I guess. But for now, it is tea, cold, just like my heart, and water tonight. So Patriot Challenge. Yeah, just trying to cut down the booze, a little bit more exercise, always reloading right now. It's the season. And I went out and peopled as well, which takes a skill into itself.
Yes.
I met up with about 200 people, like-minded individuals, which was kind of nice. Made a couple new contacts. That was good. So it was like a Montgomery's Tavern on steroids. It was fantastic. So that was my big patriotic achievement this week.
How many of the 200 do you think were feds?
180. Oh, please. Actually, no, I could guarantee that I would say less than 1% was probably feds. So anyway, yeah, what about yourself there, Gavin?
I am drinking Signal Hill and Diet Pepsi this evening. Patriot Challenge back on the reading. Been crushing my water, which came in really handy when I was in Las Vegas this last week for SHOT Show, because there was some drinking involved and not one hangover because I was hydrating. So
Nice.
there were no Ryan Gingers though. There was one incredibly strong rum and coke, like ridiculously strong. I had the pleasure of meeting up with our friend from Gray Fox there. They make wonderful holsters if you need one, by the way. And we were out on Fremont and we hit up one of those bars that's like right out in the open there on Fremont. And it was like 3 ounces, but like the ounces were like more than an ounce because it was this massive shot glass and it's just like over top of the thing pouring. So it's like, yeah, we're going to fill this giant shot glass until it's overflowing into your cup 3 times and then liberally splash some more rum on top of all of it.
Wow.
This is after a day of having several beers in the beer garden with our good friends Brent and Renee that did the Many to One charity that we supported many years ago and all of that. So there was a fair amount of drinking.
Nice.
Which I'm calling part of the Patriot Challenge because it's part of the drinking thing. So, Andrew, what are you drinking this evening, sir?
Beer. Elgin's finest wee heavy Scottish style ale from Railway City Brewing. It's delicious.
Very thematic for this week. Good job.
Thank you. Happy Robbie Burns Day.
Thank you. I did go to a dinner on the
Did you
weekend.
sing to the haggis?
I didn't, but an entire pipe band did. It's great.
Is the only woodwind instrument that is classified as a weapon of war.
That's true. The ladies from hell.
Them too.
Yeah.
Patriot Challenge things. I kind of am slacking. I kind of am not. I am on the do the things that we talked about for the New Year's Same Me episode. So I've got my like 150 intensity minutes for 4 weeks in a row. So I am attempting to look better naked. Unfortunately, I had a lot of work events this week, so I have been a little bit gluttonous. So that's probably offset all of my intensity minutes. So I look the same naked as I used to. You're welcome
Wow.
to picture that.
At least it didn't get any worse.
It didn't get worse, yeah.
I mean, can't prove that.
I mean, you could, but then we could definitely get kicked off of YouTube.
I definitely don't want the before and after videos sent out.
It's the
my
same
way.
video. I'm working on all the Patriot Challenge things. I drink my water. I do my exercise. I got my intensity minutes on my Garmin. I have been running a lot. It's not been fun. Running is a stupid hobby.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody run like a great distance and look happy, so that should tell you something.
They
Like, at
keep
least-
saying something about the runner's high, but I don't think I've ever ran long enough to get that because, running sucks and all that.
No, at least like after you do like a jujitsu session or something like that, you actually come away smiling and laughing or giggling about something that happened, and we have some positive experience. But yeah, runners always look unhappy.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
And if you're not into like the close contact of jujitsu, I always recommend boxing. It's another good one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that.
Punching people is fun.
It
Don't
is.
think I'm taking that up anytime soon. I did get challenged to
Hmm.
doing a Murph on Saturday before going to a company event. I
Oof.
have regrets.
There you go.
Did you do it?
Modified and badly, and several hours later, yes, I did do it.
Yeah. It's good.
So it was not a great time. I don't think we have any listener feedback this week, but Pierre, maybe you
Well,
want to tell everybody where to send their hate
We,
mail.
we do have one quick listener thing here, though. Dawn is asking for us to dip into the science of drinking and floating.
Because
Floating.
if you're lighter than a duck, you'll float, and that makes you a witch.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to unpack that one for me. My brain does not connect those dots.
I have to watch
Go
a
back
movie
in.
first.
Oh, if there's
No,
no
it's for when you're ice fishing. The reason you drink while you ice fish is so that if the ice cracks and you fall in, the
Mhm.
alcohol is lighter than water, so you'll float better.
Oh, okay. Man logic. Understood.
Yes.
It's science.
Got it.
Yeah,
Guy math. Understood.
But we'd love to hear your feedback about the show or what you think is better for drinking on thin ice. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Version of the show is available on iTunes.
briefly touch on the Finnish things before I let Gavin do the news. Razul has officially published their dates, updated their social media. They made it Facebook official.
Ooh.
The Razul 4-day march is going to be May 9th to 12th this year. Razul is organized by the Finnish Reserve Sports Association. You get a shiny patch. Maybe you get a shiny medal. You definitely get regret. So much regret.
But here
Not
we
everybody
are.
has to do it to the scale that you guys do, though. You
Yes,
can do
they
it
do.
to the scale that I do it, which
Everything
is
is
the
a
bare minimum.
contest, and if you can't at least keep up with me, you're not winning the contest.
True.
Okay. That's like, yeah. Anyways.
More guy math.
Yeah, more guy
No,
math. I was just about to
narcissism
say
at
more-
its finest. Narcissism. That's what I went with.
You should be at least as fit as the agents of the state that are going to come and try to collect you or your possessions at some point in the future.
Or your
And I am
import
at least as fit
taxes.
as the agent of the state, so you should at least be as fit as I am. This is
Okay.
the minimum bar.
Yep.
Also, if I owned a drinking establishment, I would probably call it the minimum bar.
Or
Hmm.
Montgomery's Tavern.
Second choice.
Yeah.
There's probably
That
a
could
lot
be
of
the,
those.
the bar attached to the bar. But speaking of agents of the state, do y'all
Okay.
remember the Emergencies Act and the protests?
I miss Stompy the horse.
Yeah.
Ugh.
The musical ride through Ottawa. Yeah, so apparently there was a ruling by a federal judge, Justice Richard Mosley. Apparently, he wrote that while protests reflected an unacceptable breakdown of public order, the invocation of the Emergencies Act does not bear the hallmarks of reasonableness, justification, transparency, and intelligibility. Ultimately, there was no national emergency justifying the invocation of the Emergencies Act.
No
So, yes.
shit.
A federal judge has ruled that the invocation of the Emergencies Act was a violation of our charter rights. This
Wait,
broke
he didn't
Monday.
get fired before that ruling? Because that seems to be what's happened in the past.
No, not as of yet.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm glad we
there
get
might
to
be a
talk about this.
complication later.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that this was a court case in federal court. I did not know that we
Who
were.
put that forward? Was that the Center for
Yeah, so that's
Constitutional?
my next bullet point here. The federal
Oh.
court case was argued by two national groups, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, so the CCLA, and the Canadian Constitution Foundation, so the CCF, and two people who had their bank accounts that were frozen.
That's fair. That's very fair. And I mean, wasn't there was bank accounts being frozen before the government okayed it. So there's like a whole lot tied up in that.
Yeah, and I haven't found anything reliable on this, but I have seen
Wonder
it
why.
floating around social media that there is like a deadline that's coming up shortly, that if you were injured at the protest or had your bank account frozen, that you need to contact these people for a class action thing. It had some like ridiculously short window, but I was like, but they just said that this was
What
not
about emotional
constitutional, so I
damage?
imagine that would extend it out if this is a thing. So
I kind of
think-
feel like we live in a woke enough world that I could probably get on the class action for emotional damage, right?
absolutely, you
I
were there.
feel like there's a difference between tort and civil law in that case. Emotional damage wouldn't constitute the same type of ruling as violating your civil liberties or
That's
your what would banking fall under? That would be a tort law.
Well, so I mean, it gets into it a little bit later on here, but I mean, basically they deem that as unlawful search and seizure of possessions.
Yeah.
I mean, your money is yours, so it is a
Well,
violation of your right.
Your money is yours, but is access to your banking yours? Because I feel like that the bank is going to make a strong argument that it's theirs.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Well, I went to
guess
the
that's
bank
yet
and
to
I
be-
pulled out a substantial amount of money and they made me wait a week.
Like it is your money, but I mean,
Yeah,
you're playing in their sandbox. Like they can tell
for
you,
sure.
yeah.
right? Like it's not a thing where I can walk in and say, like, pull all my investments, everything I wanted in cash now. Like it's not gonna happen, even though it's your money. You're playing in their sandbox, and they'll just throw anything at you to keep it there, or just not give it to you.
But
It's
that's-
probably because it's already been spent. But that's
But that's
beside,
kind
that's
of-
a whole other side of the conversation.
And that's the whole risk of you actually banking though, right? Is that
Yeah.
you're using a third party to manage your money and store your money rather than just the mattress or the freezer, right?
And that's why I keep mine under the stones in the backyard.
There you go.
Yep.
Right along with the
It's in mason jars.
in mason jars.
Third stone from the left. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's right
Oh, you
beside
better move
the
that now that I
dead
just told
pet.
everyone where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, right beside the dead pet graveyard.
But yeah, this was quite the talk amongst the Canadians in Las Vegas when I was down there. We were all very freedom loving, so this was something important to us.
But do you
I'm-
not think? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad that this is going before the court. I didn't realize that there was even a court
Yeah.
case going because there's been very little in the news about this. Not that
Wonder
that's
why.
at all suspicious.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was C21, but I mean, like, it just seems odd to me that this was not like front page news when it was going on, and now we got a ruling, and it was like
All of a
bottom
sudden
of
that-
the politics section
Yeah.
on the CBC.
Was this not started though, like almost immediately after?
I believe it was, and it's
Yeah.
probably just taken
It's
this
just taken
long
2
to
years
work
to
its
get
way
it.
through and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
whatnot.
probably.
But
So
Yeah.
now that
Right.
Justice Mosley's written whatever ruling, I guess I don't know if there's
Yeah.
actually a ruling, a statement. Is
Yeah.
there consequences for
Um,
people that have
This is what
If I was to guess,
Well-
a $500 fine.
more than an ethics
But-
violation? That's like 2.5
Wow.
ethics violations.
I no. I mean, I really
No?
I guess this is where
So
It
Mosley
needs to
says
get-
the government did a bad thing, and also bad
Yeah,
government.
that's-
Don't do that again. Like,
I mean, it sort of does set some precedent if this stays. So, I mean, we'll work our way through all of that. But like, so, I don't think anything is really going to happen to Trudeau that's at least not in terms of any sort of like financial or physical punishment. It'll tarnish his image slightly,
how?
but like,
Yeah.
the slightest of bits, because at least the media is talking about it, but like the people that love him also still agree that this is a thing, and they're appealing it. So like if they win the appeal, then that tarnish rubs right off, right?
So the appeal process, does that mean this goes to the Supreme Court of Canada? Is that the appeal body?
I believe so. But yeah, under the Emergencies Act here, a national emergency only exists if the situation cannot be effectively dealt with under any other law of Canada. Further, a public order emergency can be declared only in response to an emergency that arises from threats to the security of Canada that are so serious as to be a national emergency. The Act defers to CSIS definition of such threats, which includes serious violence against persons or property, espionage, foreign interference. So weird that we never called one on the Chinese interference with their election, which is also being investigated right now. Or an intent to overthrow the government by violence. So because we didn't meet that threshold, the judges deemed this. So it does, like, the one good thing is that now that it has gone to a court and a judge has made a ruling on it, there is some precedent in that if they ever want to invoke the Emergencies Act again, they're going to defer to this because it has never been done before. I mean, it has.
I feel like that's
hasn't.
a very optimistic position to take, that they're going to defer to the opinion of
Yeah.
one federal court justice. Because
Yeah,
I mean,
because it's not going to go
it doesn't-
towards their favor. And how long ago? This was what, 2 years ago?
2 years.
yes.
Yeah. So it's taken 2 years for them to stamp, seal, deliver, saying that we're the
I-
Emergencies Act. They're doing all this stuff, and it took over 2 years for someone to just be like, "Hey, you shouldn't have done that." Technically,
Well, I mean, we
So-
don't know that it's taken 2 years to come to this decision. It's just taken 2 years for it to be heard, which I imagine is
Yeah.
most of that 2 years.
Because
Right, so
everything was
fi-
just so backed up, and then there's been insane court cases though that have
Yes.
been trying to get through. So like I
but
the timeline makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean
Nothing
you
in
still
this timeline makes sense to me.
no,
the
nothing
content
because
the content doesn't make sense to me. Like
no, but I mean, they had no problems throwing everybody that they said organized the protest, right? They were in front of a judge. They got their rulings way
but they're-
faster.
but here's the thing is that I don't think that they got their actual rule. Well, okay, but different process, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like
How? Why?
How? Yeah,
So-
it's all related to the same thing.
it's all related to the same thing, but I think that there's a different process because people actually went to jail. So then they had to
Yeah.
come out and have like they had to
They
have
can't-
like that kind of court process
Well,
that
that
says
and
like,
like they
oh,
get
okay, like is there bail, is there conditions,
had
like
to-
that sort of thing, which is
Yeah.
So-
totally different. So they were in front of a judge like, relatively immediately within like, well, the one guy was like, what, 3 months, but for the most part, they were kind of rather immediately put through the system because they had these people detained. So then,
What about
yeah,
the
but I
Coots
mean,
4
that was
though? They didn't
probably
get
all a
any. They
failure.
didn't get any court case.
pardon?
The Coots 4 are still waiting for a.
Oh, I
court
know
case.
that's ridiculous, and that's a
Yeah.
whole thing. And I think I don't know much about it, but the impression I'm left with is that because the premier is like, this is not my jurisdiction, she can't interfere with it. But at the same time, part of me wonders if because the actual province and premier are kind of saying F you to the federal government, there's just like a slow grind to everything that's got to go through certain court systems there. That's just based on the very little that I know. That could be totally off base, but I kind of get that there's like just this tension that's occurring and these guys are kind of caught in the middle.
Yeah.
No doubt she
And-
wants to tell the federal government to screw off with that case, but by the same token, though, every province is basically mandated to process federal laws in their provincial courts, right? So she's in charge of the person in charge of the provincial courts. So she has control,
Yeah.
but she just doesn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, that, and I mean, if everyone kind of remembers, the way that this all works was that like the government kind of just declared the Emergencies Act. So the Liberals and the NDP got together and said, hey, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And it happens, but there's a review that has to happen that involves everybody. They canceled the Emergencies Act like the day before they had to do that review. So while it may not prevent a future government from just doing whatever the fuck it wants to do, because that's what shitty governments do.
Just
It might
governments in general.
slow some of them down or have it be revoked without them revoking it if it gets to that point, because they will go back and look at this. Obviously, we need
No,
more things.
I
but
want politicians in jail.
I
yes,
agree.
I mean,
Oh,
But
100%.
I want other things, but I can't say that on the internet because we all know CSIS listens.
So
guys, how
I
you doing?
guess I
But
guess if
also
you're looking,
politicians in jail through
But if
due
you're-
process of law.
yeah,
Yes.
if you're looking at apples to apples and you're saying, okay, so the folks that got arrested under the Emergencies Act, because I think that they got arrested after the Emergencies Act was enforced. I don't know about the Coots folks, but definitely like they pretty much got labeled, the leaders or the organizers of the convoy in Ottawa got labeled as such after the Emergencies Act and in relation to the violation of the rules that were created under that.
I mean, this
So yes, in my
ruling,
thought is that like if you cannot prosecute the Coots folks and the Ottawa folks on the like outside of the rulings that were put in place from the Emergencies Act, then they should be free immediately, right?
well, this should hopefully help some of those cases. I mean, I guess the ones that they found that were armed
Yeah.
is a different thing, because it's, well, I mean, I've heard mixed things about it. So they had guns, but were they actually there, or were they close by, or whatever? I guess that's what the
There
courts
was
will
like
tell.
a whole bunch of weird stuff around that.
The ones that were armed, if they were in fact armed, are basically fucked, because like you can't be armed at a protest in Canada. So even
Oh,
if the protest
absolutely.
is deemed legal and it
Legal,
wasn't an Emergencies Act thing, it's not going to help them. But for the organizers in Ottawa, this ruling should directly help their cases,
Yeah.
if nothing else, by going like, well, so we were doing something legal. It has
Mhm.
been determined that this is illegal and that this violated our rights. So let me go. I
And-
shouldn't be charged with anything. And if anything, I should be getting some sort of compensation for.
And it should be taken out of the personal coffers of
Yeah.
those that made the decision.
It won't be. It'll be out of our taxes, but
I know.
it
I
should
don't
be
love
out
that,
of the
but
pocket. But
absolutely, it
Yeah,
should be
so
taken out of
they'll
your
just-
freaking pension, bro. But the other side, which we also pay, so I mean, whatever. But at the same time, I am interested to know what the recourse is going to be. Like,
well, so there's a
obviously,
few things with this, right?
Mhm.
The judge also ruled against the taking of the money and all of that. So the reason for it is because the measures were not minimally impairing. You wrote they were overbroad in their application to persons who wish to protest but were not engaged in activities likely to lead to a breach of the peace. The economic orders violated protesters' charter rights by permitting unreasonable search and seizure of the financial information of designated persons and the freezing of their bank credit card accounts. So,
Yeah.
not much. Where is the next article? So, Kamloops MP Frank Caputo says that he didn't have enough support from other members of the parliament to investigate the federal court's use of Emergencies Act in response to the protests. So following the ruling, Caputo and 3 other conservatives on the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights issued a letter calling for a special meeting to address the ruling. So the Standing Committee on the Justice and Human Rights is like the MPs that sit there and they deal with all the stuff, right? So there are 11 members on the committee. So 5 liberals, 4 conservatives, 1 NDP, and 1 bloc.
So pretty much 4 conservatives and the rest are on the other side.
So everyone else was a no vote. Not even that they voted against it, they just didn't vote at all.
Like in absentia, like
Yeah.
Like they didn't show up, or they just said, I don't vote yay or
They
nay.
said you were not voting, or they just didn't show
So
up, or
there
whatever it
was-
is. So
I don't understand our committee policy. So is this like just the equivalent of voting present? Like they're like
They're abstaining.
Yeah.
No, so I don't know if it's connected, but there was a couple other things where whether it was, I think they did it under the guise of COVID, they did it under the guise of like social distancing, that sort of thing, because they wouldn't let certain MPs, like you were on a docket to vote. You were not like, you didn't go to every vote.
No, but they still let them vote via Zoom and all the other things once they
No.
figured.
Some of them, because we reached out to our local MP because we were like, you aren't even on this list to vote.
Yeah.
Why? And he's like, oh, because they would do like a percentage thing. And I don't know what it's
Yeah.
called. I don't know how to explain it, but it was the
Yeah,
most
but this is
mind-boggling thing.
Called the
This is
rigging.
different though for this. This is like they literally needed one more person to vote to get the majority.
And that was just
And
to send a
apparently-
letter, right?
Well, but they have the ability to do something. If they get enough people on board, they can start an investigation, which is where somebody might be held accountable.
So what he's saying is that there just never was enough people interested in that. So
Yeah.
can they
On that
kind of
committee.
on that
Yeah.
committee? So they kind of come back and
No.
No.
It'll be too late. Like, what are you going to come back a year from now? Like when the committee gets
I don't know.
disbanded?
Well, and again, not that I fully understand parliamentary committee rules, but the way that I gather the committee policy working is once they vote on an item that's been tabled, they're not to be discussing it again unless there's a substantial change to the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that would
I
require
can't
would this
them to,
imagine-
ruling consider
re-bring it
that
up.
though?
I
Well,
don't.
but this was done after the ruling. It was the
No,
ruling
the-
that triggered this.
Oh, okay. So the ruling
they're like, well,
triggered
shit,
this ethics
If
discussion that
yeah, so
still
if
did
the
not
pro
have enough votes to actually
Yeah.
get into a bigger investigation.
So maybe if it goes through the appeals process and the Supreme Court of Canada hands down a ruling, then maybe the it's not the ethics committee, it's the
human rights and
human
justice,
rights and justice committee.
Yeah.
they can
um,
maybe
They may
do it again.
revisit it at that point, but there would need to be a substantial change for that to happen.
Yeah.
And it would probably involve one of those party members who's on one side to really swing.
Which isn't
That's-
good.
I imagine that there are several party members on that side that swing.
Or should.
Ew.
Or should
Not that kind of
swing,
swinging.
But
Wait, what did you guys mean?
yes.
I meant they let
I-
other dudes have intercourse with their spouse.
Yeah, that's not what I meant.
Oh,
You mean like the
But-
Danny Deaver?
I don't know. I don't understand.
Read your
half the
Kipling, god
references.
damn it. What
Yeah.
kind of an English person are you?
Well, yeah.
There's only
It's-
so much I can read in a lifetime.
Unless
reading
they
Kipling.
manage to like threaten one of those politicians or he switches. Because I mean there are some things now where like there was one liberal MP, I believe, that is sort of quietly talking about a leadership review,
Mm.
right? And like I believe the justice minister is stepping down or has stepped down as a result of this ruling. So like he's gonna be, or she, I don't know who it is gonna be the scapegoat for this. I imagine it'll be
It might be a day.
We talked to the justice minister and they were all for this, so we thought that everything was good. So we followed their
Yeah.
advice, so we're really sorry.
Didn't I read somewhere that somebody did already step down?
I think it's the justice minister, like that happened like almost immediately.
Okay.
But yeah, so immediately after the whole ruling and everything came out, Freeland
Ugh,
gets up
she
and
opened her mouth.
yeah, so Freeland, who also serves as the deputy prime minister, said that the decision to invoke emergency powers was taken because the public safety of Canada and national security were under threat.
Nobody actually agrees with that. The only people I know of that actually agree with that are the same people that are
Yeah.
afraid to eat at a new restaurant because they're like, ugh, is it clean? You know, they're the kind of people that are
To
Just like-
boomers.
Yeah, her
no,
direct-
actually like the most
libtards.
Yeah. The most people
Yeah.
that I heard make any kind of comments were the people that were totally parroting what they saw on
Yeah.
social media that was produced by liberal media, or they were part of this like group of people that was just a big echo chamber of,
well,
that was it. But they were also the same ones that are like, I'm
wait
not
till
gonna,
you
I'm not gonna
hear.
hang out with you, Liz, because you're unvaccinated and and I'm like,
You're a right-wing extremist.
Yes.
It's
Yes,
like-
it's good way to find out who your friends
Consider
are.
that a badge
Yeah.
of honor. Yeah, but these are
Yeah.
people that I've known my whole life, but then all of a sudden are afraid to go for a walk
And they're just
outside with
figuring out
me.
that you're a right-wing extremist? Wow.
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm an
There's
extremist. I'm definitely somebody that's like, no bullshit. Like, I don't care who you are, what side you're on. Just like, stay away from me, leave me be. And like, I'm down to have conversations that I'm on the opposing side as the other person, but have a conversation, be
Yeah.
open to dialogue and to discourse. And that's my biggest criticism of this whole thing, is that the local person was just like, no, you can't think differently. You know, the government was
No,
like,
like
no, you
what
can't
I
think
say
differently.
goes.
Yeah.
well,
And I was
Yeah,
like,
right.
for people
gotta
that are
tug the party
touting
line.
this like super icky, like diversity line, you sure don't actually believe it. And I mean, we all
they
knew
do when
that.
it benefits them. That's
Yeah, but that's
the
not true diversity. That's
I
not
know,
true.
Yeah,
but
but that you don't. That it doesn't have to be true if it
Right.
if it
But
goes
I don't
along with their
understand.
lines.
But I
That's
don't
all they care
understand
about.
how people this is where I get frustrated. The rest of it, I'm just like, hey, you're hypocrites, like pay attention. But the part that frustrates me is how people can be so naive to that. Like, because you know that when you talk to somebody that's like, oh, well, hey, you know, we believe in DEI hires, like we believe in this, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, well, what's your stance on like the suppression of peaceful protesting in Ottawa? Or like the suppression of information? They're like, well, that was violent and that was against people. And I was like, were you there? Did you know? And it takes less
Yeah.
than 5 minutes to use their own logic for them to come to a realization of like, oh shit, it's the same thing.
but the problem is where are they getting all of their misinformation from? The media.
Which is
Right.
like
Yeah.
stupidly funded by the government.
Yeah, that's why I call it misinformation.
Yeah.
So I've had the same thing where like I had a friend that like was going on about the protest or whatever. I was like, hey, look, I was there.
Yeah.
So like if you have questions about what it was like I'm not trying to sway you one way or the other. Like I really don't care. But
Yeah,
like
no, but
I was there. If you have questions, ask me.
Sure.
And then like other people are like, oh, like just a bunch of whites and racist and violent. And like, and all I did was then just started posting articles like, because it was back when you could post articles on the Book of Faces. And it was
Sure.
like, oh, Native woman trampled by police,
Yeah.
you know, a Sikh guy that got injured by police. And I was just like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of white people here
I saw a
protesting.
lot of Sikh guys.
And
Honestly,
nobody,
I was like,
and oddly enough, once I started doing that, she didn't respond. But like,
yeah.
you know, because yeah, there were certainly like,
But it's also interesting because it doesn't really matter. Like I could post something on my social media that could be relatively naive, but it's my opinion. Okay. It's my social
yes,
media. I'm allowed to post it. I had a couple of people, you know, come back at me and have like conversations. I had one guy say, like, this is super racist. And I was like, how so? And he like shared this link of this Instagram account that it was like called the what is it? It's like the decolonized. It was very like indigenous hateful. Like I'm a bitter indigenous person, you know, and the location was
yeah,
like Turtle Island. I was like, oh, good, this is gonna be helpful. And I was like,
yeah.
that's where you're getting your source information is from
But
like some
there,
outrageously bitter, like indigenous person who's probably out there burning a church right now. So you're not
yeah, but
gonna,
we can't talk about that or judge those people
yeah.
for those actions.
oh my gosh, like
Those,
they renamed
right?
half of Canada's like universities and roads because of this shit. Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the whole
But that's okay.
concept. I've encountered two people in the past like 4 years
But-
that are on the other side of the conversation that are like, hey, I really appreciate that this is how you felt, or hey, I really appreciate that you were just out there like exhibiting and participating in your civil right to protest.
But this
Two
is the
people.
thing is that like, if the vast majority of people were reasonable, we wouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. If
I don't know, because I think you can be reasonable but also passive, right?
Yeah,
I
but-
don't think that I was necessarily like, I'm a pretty fired up human being, and we've always been like civically minded as a family, but nothing prepared me for what all of this did to me. I was like fired up. Even now, I'm watching what's going on in France, in Germany, and I'm like just as riled up because you see people standing up to the government. You're like, yes, right? You see what's happening down in the States, and I'm like, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But like,
True. They
there's
are
still
getting the band back together.
absolutely.
It brings me hope because they don't live in as much of a clown world as here, where it's
I was gonna say
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
sadly we're all in
different
clown
clown world, different
Yeah.
clown world. But I guess what I'm kind of saying is that I still think that as a culture, we are extremely passive. And that's one of the reasons that this has worked out really well for the government.
But
And I'm still not entirely convinced that when the next election comes around, that some crack nut government isn't going to get in.
I mean,
Right?
But
I'm
they're
not
all
convinced.
politicians trying
this
to
is
get
where
in
I
because
need to like dig into the archives of Boondock Saints quotes again. And like,
I'm
you
down
know,
for
it's
it.
the indifference of good men. That's the evil that we need to fear. So like, if
Yeah.
you're not going to speak up and you're not going to do anything about it, you may as well be just as guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Burke,
dig into
Edmund
the Randy
Burke, not-
Travis lyrics and say if you what is it? You got to stand for something or fall for anything.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is he like one of the great English poets? I don't
No,
know.
he's the
Randy
country
Burke.
and the Western.
Oh, he plays both kinds of music.
Yeah.
he's bi.
Yeah. Yes, and that he plays both kinds of music.
Yeah. Both kinds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could also, there's a quote from the Have 'em All where like, you know, you should speak out against evil and all of those things as well. So like, if you're not doing those things, and like, hopefully we do that at least a little bit here on the podcast,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know. I think that's the problem. If most people were reasonable, we wouldn't have
Yeah.
had this problem. The
No.
fact is that the vast majority of people are either indifferent or unreasonable. And that's why we had to go and do this. And thankfully, like we all knew we were doing the right thing by supporting this. It's nice getting that confirmation now that somebody has at least agreed with this. Not that I think it's really going to do a whole lot, but confirmation bias is delicious.
Right. And I mean, you're right. So like that justification of like, oh yeah, I knew that what I was doing was right, but now it is very
Yeah.
publicly made aware that
Wow.
you know my stand. Well, not very publicly, but
Vaguely public. but
Vaguely.
Yeah,
yeah.
vaguely
Public-
public.
there's been a couple of government announcements and a lot of really
Yeah.
good you know, memes and clips about it, you know,
Yeah.
where it goes from JT talking about, you know, the small fringe minority with unacceptable views to being like, we didn't say that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, all of that. But I mean, the fact that there is likely not going to be any repercussions or recourse that is substantial, it just indicates that,
Well,
you know, that
we'll
this
see
is
how
extremely
this appeal goes, and I got a quote here from Freeland that'll, you know, sure to fire you up a little bit. We have discussed it
much.
with the Prime Minister, with cabinet colleagues, with senior federal government officials and experts. We respect very much Canada's independent judiciary. However, we do not agree with this decision, and respectfully, we will be appealing it.
They're just trying to,
Yeah.
okay, so I personally think that he was like, hey, I'm all out of cards. I'm gonna pull a Pierre Elliott and see if that's gonna work as
Yeah.
well for me as it did for him.
Dad did it. I'm
Mhm.
gonna do
And I
it.
mean, like he kind of did it iconically. Like he had as much as I didn't love Pierre Elliott, like I wasn't really around, but as much as like his time in office wasn't epic, he was kind of still an epic dude. He was not like
I mean, those
JT is kind
turtlenecks.
of yeah, but he had swagger and pizzazz, you know, like JT's got like weak knees and
Bit of a
ugh.
weak jaw too. I've seen him box.
But also when he opens his mouth, I'm just like, ugh.
Yes, I would agree. He doesn't quite have the je ne sais quoi that his
Yeah.
father had, if you
Yeah.
will.
Is it the pickle sticker and the motorcycle?
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't have the stall helm and the motorcycle that he was riding around Ottawa in. The younger Trudeau opted for brown face instead. Yeah,
Yeah.
which backfired big time. Well,
Oh,
maybe not big
immensely.
time. Like
Well,
small
and-
time, it backfired small time for him, and then
and no
everyone forgot
disclosure
about.
agreements, which I don't think his dad had.
Yeah,
What's that?
no, he was proud of his conquests,
Yeah.
as was his wife. Rolling Stones. Speaking of people that do seem to have a little bit of charisma, at least, Paul Revere government would drop the appeal of the Emergencies Act ruling, apparently. So when asked if the Conservatives, if they form government, if the appeal is going forward, they would drop it.
Yes, but would they put other politicians in jail over it?
No,
Yeah.
but
I
I
doubt
Then I don't care.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
like waste
Yeah.
my tax dollars in a different way. I don't care. Like,
mean,
unless
I will
we're
say
going
this,
to jail
he talks a
people
good
that
game.
abuse their talking,
It's like a
having a
timeshare
whiz
salesman.
will only get you so far.
Yeah.
Just like a timeshare, you buy in, and once you sign the
Yeah.
dotted lines, then things change again, right? So you get the 4-year elected dictatorship for 4 years, and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
This
mean, yeah.
quote, though, like, as PM, I will unite our country for freedom. That should put off alarm bells for most people.
Yeah,
I think
but
it does.
unfortunately, too many bells go the wrong way
Huh?
because people are stupid.
Oh, okay, yeah. But I'm
Right,
just saying, like, I think it's great that,
Yeah.
there's somebody kind of stepping up to the charge and being like a little confrontational and a little.
But
I think
this
it's
is
good, but it's
all-
a capitalization on what he's
Yeah.
perceived.
Where was he
Absolutely.
when all of this was going on? Like they were.
Look, unless we get to like make some politicians swing, I don't.
Yeah, like
I want
it's
MP
it's still a
shaped wind
career.
And just to
chimes.
clarify, Andrew means swing dance. Swing
Yeah.
dance is
All the
what
way
he would
to
like
jail.
see politicians do. Yes.
Whichever fucking way
Legally
you want to
and
call
with
it.
due
They're
course.
career
I need
politicians.
wind chimes.
Yes.
They're career politicians. They're
Yeah.
complete fucking useless. They make a
Yeah.
living off fucking most people over. And someone can talk a lot of smack for not having to do anything and not being in charge. Oh, I'm the opposition, so I can just shit talk. And then you put them in power, you decide to fucking do anything about, you say you stand for most Canadians and you want to do this for people and you want to do that. And then we decide as a collective amount of people in this country to put that person in power for 4 years, and sweet fuck all changes.
Well,
So
I
then
think it's
everybody's
hard.
like,
Yeah, I think it's
it-
hard. 4 years is a really short time to turn certain things around because it's
okay, but
such a
if you don't even
confined
take a step
system.
forward, it's no good.
I think, honestly, I think the lead up is just such a falsehood. That's the problem, is that you jazz people up with all these promises and with all these.
They're
things.
politicians. This is what they do.
But
Yeah,
that's
hey,
what I
where's
mean,
the-
and that's the
where's
only
the
way to
Trudeau
win.
meter these days? How many
I
lies? Or how many?
know.
I shouldn't say lies. That's not true. How many unfulfilled promises do we have on?
That
the
was pretty
current
hot in
government?
like the first 6 months of his reign.
It still exists.
Oh my gosh, it was
I
brutal.
wonder if it's still current. Let's look. I'm going to
But-
intern that real quick.
Yeah, you should check that out. But that honestly,
Ooh,
I think that the
promises-
system, yeah, is
without googling promises kept. Can I get like a show of hands by where we think we are on promises kept?
Can we talk about how many promises he made? I don't know that figure.
Well,
Are we
it was
talking
I don't know.
zero.
percentage?
Just as a percentage. Just as a
Okay,
percentage.
like 5.
No, I
More
think
than
he's
5.
closer. I think he's closer to 30% in terms of promises kept.
More than 30.
What? Wow.
I call bullshit on that.
Well, he did promise to screw over gun owners. He's
Fake
done a great
news.
job.
Fake news.
41%.
Really? That's much
41
higher
bucks.
than I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave 5% because I think he's trash and the way he
Well, but
handles
so
things
that's the
is
like
trash. So
the promises that he's kept are not things that are necessarily good for us,
Right.
but the things that he said that he was going to do that he has made good on,
yeah.
Yeah.
even if they
Right. So they
fuck
might
us.
not be. It might not be 41% of good things, but
Yeah.
just
It's almost
small
certainly
little
not.
things.
Yeah.
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 And a lot of them are
politician.
probably like the bullshit things. Like, I'm gonna like rename this to that, or like, dumb shit like that, where
Yeah.
it's like, who fucking cares? Like,
Yeah,
I
we're
bet
gonna
you
take
the
a
problem-
statue.
DEI, I bet you DEI was like big on their list.
I mean, you can
Why?
check the
I'm-
thing and see, but yeah. But electoral reform wasn't one of those things. Well, it was, and then it wasn't, and now it seems to be a thing again. But
That's because they're getting real snappy as they get closer to like potential election times, right?
I am enjoying seeing Jagmeet like start to
Make
take some
decisions.
shots.
Well, the dude is like, at this point, he's kind of got nothing to lose.
Well, yeah, he got his health or his dental care thing, and then C-21 has passed. So like the two major things they were propping each other up for have made it through.
Yep.
And now, I mean, there is going to be an election soon. There has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's time to renegotiate the terms of the contract and go, we'll prop you up again, but
He wants another belly button ring.
well, yeah.
Well, it has to be. It's a little strong language. I mean, it doesn't have to be an election until 2025, right?
No, but like historically, like without the NDP propping them up.
Well, historically,
they've
they've
got
done better
nothing.
than any or any minority government in history, I think, because normally it's 24 months, isn't it, that the minority government lasts?
Yes, but that's just because of the deal that they've had, and now that he's got his like dental program, what else does he need? Now is the time to play hardball, and that's why he's taking shots
I
at
think
him.
now, you know what I think it is? I think he's looking for, I think he sees kind of what's coming. And because without a coalition government, the NDP is like pretty much a bankrupt party. It's not going to really exist. So he has to tie his cart like to something else,
Yes, but
right?
How
So
can
he
we
just
ensure
sees
that
that Trudeau
happens?
is, what's that, Andrew?
How can we ensure that that happens?
That he,
That the NDP is a bankrupt party. I don't mean morally.
No,
yeah,
I mean,
we
I
already
don't
knew
think-
that was the case. Yeah,
I don't think that they're going to. Okay, so this is maybe what's going through his mind, and I could be totally off, but I think that he's maybe gearing up for the opportunity to become, you know, the second most voted for party in the next election under next to the Conservatives.
Well, if they
And
vote
if
by
that-
mail like they plan to, he probably will be because they'll cheat the shit out of it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
if that happens, the Liberals are gonna win again. Like, let's be
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that like if Jagmeet's smart, which I don't think he is, like he's just trying to get away. Like now that he does have the things that he wants out of Trudeau, he's trying to distance himself from like a sinking ship, and also
but that all
trying to
depends on
figure out.
who they put in his place too, right?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. Like this is all speculation because I mean,
I'm not
was
going to be
so
happy until we
shocked.
put politicians in jail.
Yeah.
I think that there definitely should be some sort of recourse when people break laws that they're
It's
trying
breach of
to.
public trust. We should not have them in
Yeah.
a position of authority. And
At the very
Yeah.
least, it should be immediately he's like recalled from his position.
But that also
Like,
petrifies
bare
me
minimum.
because then Chrystia Freeland is in. That's
Yeah, but if she was
petrifying.
part of
don't
that,
worry, she
then
will fucking
she's
hang
also,
herself way faster.
Yeah, that is true.
I don't know. All
Right,
I know
should-
is that if they go to jail,
Yeah.
I'm going straight to the bar at the RCMI and ringing that bell and buying a round for everybody.
Okay.
Can I be there so I get one?
Well, you've got as long as it takes me to get from when I hear the news to get to the bar.
Yeah, there's going to be a bit
You'll
of a
beat me. I'm
party.
way too far. Right, but that's the thing. Like, there's not going to be any retribution for any of this. No, at worst comes to worst, it's going to be a slap in the hand. Nobody's going to step down. Is going to get kicked out. And even if we kick someone out, we're just either going to start slowing the plane crash down, or we're going to make it crash faster. Like there's no way to bring the plane back.
Well, there is. But
I don't think most Canadians
that
are ready for that.
involves, yeah, it involves like electing someone like they did in Argentina.
That would be so awesome.
His speech was pretty epic at the West.
Right, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like we don't have a political party or a person that's willing to do the things that need to be done, and all it is a jibber jabber back and forth because
I'm going to
dick
be
swinging
honest,
competition.
though. I kind of think that even like the new PM of Argentina, like all this stuff, if you are in the political sphere, the way that it's so corrupted now, I don't trust you. Like
No,
When they say, oh, like
No, we need to remove
change,
the
like
entire
get
political
involved.
class by force if necessary.
Yeah, and start over. Or
Yep.
just like don't have and there is the capacity to self-regulate. Like
Yeah.
that's what
So-
tribalism is. Just make it smaller. You know,
no.
like
So
make it manageable. And whatever. I mean, I'm
we need to
clearly
start
talking
just
fanciful, but I don't know. I just think that anybody in the current state of the political realm, there's very few honest people. There's very few trustworthy people because they don't last. And they stay at low level government because they're not like manipulative enough to get higher. So when I think about even Polyev, when I think about him, he's becoming an international
Yep.
spokesperson of like freeing Canada. I mean, him and Tucker Carlson, but like I think of that and I'm like, but he's just manipulating people in a different way. He's
Yep.
just
Yeah.
manipulating the international like
Yes.
platform in a different
He-
way.
Well, I
And
mean,
that's
still a
just as
career.
scary.
insert quote from like Hans Hermann Hoppe here about like how the person
We
that is
must
doing the
physically remove them from society.
yeah, yes, but also like the one where it's like the person that gets elected isn't the person that's doing the right thing, it's the person that's doing the popular thing.
Yeah.
That's the problem
Yeah.
with like democracy.
And a lot of people aren't able to see past the depth of like the shallowness. They're not able to see the depth of the intentions
No.
because that's how you see, like, when people go through a campaign period, you see branding, you see popularity contests, you see this manipulation that's occurring, and it just grates on me because
Well,
I think about like you guys aren't actually talking about actionable items that are going to change the government long term, right? And this is
Well,
the
but-
problem. It's like, oh, okay, I've got a 4-year plan when really a fix is probably an 8-year process. But
So
I'm
there's
not
never been a
actually
4-year plan. It's always a 5-6 year plan because
Yes,
they
because you
want
have to
a
get
second
elected
term.
again.
Right? They want a
But-
second term. So we need to figure out how to stop career politicians. There's a certain point where it's like,
Term
get the
limits.
fuck out.
I actually
Big
don't
ropes.
even think, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to retract. I don't even think it's a 4-year plan. I think it's like
Like-
a year plan, and that year is the
Yeah.
campaign trail,
Well, but
and
so
that's about
like
it.
look at the
Yeah.
problem is that like how long have the Liberals been in now? Like I know too long, but what, 7 years, 8 years?
7, I
Yeah.
think.
7, I think, or maybe, yeah,
And-
about 7.
And despite
nothing-
having a majority for half of that and then like a pseudo majority for the rest of it, he still only managed to accomplish 41%.
And if we were to take a
So-
scale of how those 41% are on the
Well,
factor
I mean,
of what's
Whether-
important
whether
and not
they're
important.
good for me or not, or important or not, he made X number of promises,
And
of
like
which he has
practically,
accomplished 41% when he has had the ability to
7
do
years.
whatever he's wanted
Pretty much
in 7
everything.
years.
without
So-
opening
Pretty much
like
everything.
another can of worms, in that 7 years where he only got 41% of things achieved, how soon do you think we're going to be bankrupt as a country because of him?
We're already bankrupt as a country.
Yeah,
We have
but
more
like
we were
debt than-
bankrupt
actually
before he got into
bankrupt.
power. Like
Like Venezuela bankrupt.
I mean,
Ontario has the largest sub-sovereign debt of anywhere in the world.
Okay.
Well, I think we're at
So
the only thing left is that we're not at the point where tax revenues are exceeded by interest payments, but that's going to change with the
Yeah.
interest rate if it
Yeah.
keeps going up. So
Yeah.
I'd say it depends on what happens to the interest rate in a couple other excessive spending years, basically. But we're certainly within the near
Mhm.
future.
Yeah.
yeah,
and the only way to fix this is to abolish
rope.
long-term career politicians. So you can only serve for 2-3 terms, and you find people that actually want to serve and
No,
want to feel
anyone
like
that
they're
wants
making a
to
difference.
is absolutely the wrong person. That's
Ah,
the
Right.
yeah.
problem.
So as it stands right now, right? So I'm talking about, let's change the whole system. So let's make it that, you don't make $1 million working it, but you decide that you want to
No.
try and do good for people, right? Let's
Well,
take
you should only
the
get paid in the days that you actually sit. So if
Sure,
you don't sit
like,
and you don't show
whatever.
up and vote, you don't get fucking paid.
I think you should only get paid if your government is like, if your debt's reduced and your
Well,
government,
I mean that too.
Like,
They shouldn't
if
be
your
able to keep
country
voting for
asset
pay raises
increases,
and stuff
like-
like that.
Right, but so you don't incentivize them to
Profit
stay there and
sharing.
make a career.
come on, guys, profit sharing.
Yeah, fuck, why not? But you incentivize that, and there are people out there that get into politics for the proper or the appropriate way of, doing things or
I'm sure
wanting to
that
help.
some like
And
very low
and
level politicians
yeah,
have the best
when they
intentions.
first get it,
Ron
Very
Swanson,
I'm
corruptible.
pretty
that
sure.
is it.
Right. At the first, you want to make a career out of it because you have to modify everything you think of. So you need to not incentivize people to want to make a career and do all these bullshit things. And people will attempt to do it, and
The problem
get
is
out.
if you start putting term limits on, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but I don't necessarily agree with it either. When you have a good person that's actually doing good things, you limit them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Well, I think
you can't have your cake and eat it too.
here's
Right?
the
So
plan, guys.
you need to have that line.
No, so
you
that's
can't
why
have
we
your
just
cake
get
and-
rid of all of them.
Before I sign
Yeah.
off, because I gotta go do some shit, I'm just gonna say, here's my plan. Just get rid of 75% of the government. Tell them to get out
Yes,
of my life.
slash it.
That's it.
All of
Slash
it.
it.
It's a good
All
start.
of it. That's
Yeah.
what I think is the best. Stay away from me. Reduce my taxes.
Yeah.
I will fix the road in front of my house. That's it.
Yeah. So
I don't have to pay
what
taxes,
committee
I'll
are you
fix the road.
on again? The committee for slash it. You're gone.
Yeah,
Out of here.
I'm down for
And
that.
you gone, also gone. I don't even care who you are and what committee you sit on. The whole thing is gone.
Yeah, Millie, or I don't know how to say his name.
Entertainment, arts, all
Yeah.
gone.
All of it
Slash it.
gone. Yep.
Chainsaw the shit out of it.
Yeah, I know. I can't say his name right, but I think it's like Malay or whatever. I don't
Javier
know.
Malay.
Yeah, Javier Malay. He had the
The
right
US
idea.
guy?
No, he's the
Ar-
Argentinian guy.
Argentinian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's the guy that like campaigned literally holding a chainsaw.
So
Without a
good.
blade.
Yeah, fair enough.
But safety first.
Still had a chainsaw though.
He still had a chainsaw, and it sent a very clear message.
Ours have apples.
Yeah,
What he should have done is just put some roller chain on it so it looked like it was.
yeah. But either way, anyhow, I gotta
Okay.
peace out. So
Peace out, Liz. We should also
Yeah.
peace out. If you want to continue this discussion, you should probably do that on Gilded, but we can go around the room. As Liz is not yet disconnected, Liz, where can everybody find you on the internet?
I was just here. I just
Just
figured
here.
that I would wait since you guys are wrapping up now.
Pierre, where
Alright.
can everybody find you?
Off the wall customizing if you want something inappropriate engraved or pressed or on a shirt, sweater, whatever. You can find me here or Sunday nights talking about how you could prepare for the economic collapse of our dear fair leaders because we can't make more wind chimes.
Okay.
What about you, Ian?
Sunday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for Canadian Prepper Podcast or gab.com under the Homesteading and Preparedness Canada group.
They let you be in charge of something?
Awfully right wing.
They let me be in charge of 2 groups on there.
Is that like an off-grid OnlyFans?
Something like that.
It's where you get it in the mail.
So I post pictures, people make comments. They don't send money though.
Yet.
You could work on that. Just-
Yeah.
Gavin, where can everybody find you?
The best place to find me is Instagram, UrbexGTA.
Real quick to appease the YouTube listeners, and by that I mean Chris. Best thing you saw at SHOT Show?
I mean, that new Cadex rifle is pretty sweet.
Worst thing you saw at SHOT Show?
The ATF booth.
There we go. SHOT Show recap complete. Well done. If you've enjoyed the show, you should buy something from my store, RagnarOkTactical.ca. Use the discount code Patriot at checkout. You'll save yourself some money. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. We couldn't get Rod on the show. Also, would like to remind everyone that the government did say that you are a small fringe minority with unacceptable views.